Hello, hello, it's Patty Joe, finally back after a couple of days of working, three whole days of working. And then I got a hitch put on the back of the Jeep. Boy, that was painful. Oh my God. When your battery goes dead on your phone, you're playing your game and you're obsessively coloring in the coloring book on the teeniest phone ever. I hope everybody is doing very well. I said some really funny comments, but I'm too old to remember them. So maybe I'll look through and see if I can find them. Oh, a bad hair day for sure. Okay, but it's raining and it's icky and I'm alone in the house, so we've got this, right? We've got this. We're gonna make fun of Darrell. We're on day 10, right? Day 10. Woo woo whoop whoop. Okay, let's see.
In person, in custody, he is in street clothes, wearing a suit and tie and a mask.
I don't consent to being called that name.
Shut up.
I understand.
For the record.
And I have advised you previously that I will continue to refer to you at times by that name, as I believe it's appropriate given the charging instruments in this case.
And that is your name, dude. It's your name. You said it a million times before you got all hooked on this.
In this matter, and make my exemption available for discharge of all obligations and charges connected with this case. I do not dispute any of the facts in the charging instruments, and for the record, I do not consent to being called that name.
The record should reflect that the individual known to this court as Darrell Brooks is present in person in custody. He is in street clothes, wearing a suit and tie and a mask.
I don't consent to being called that name, Your Honor.
I understand.
For the record.
And I have advised you previously that I will continue to refer to you at times by that name, as I believe it's appropriate given the charging instruments in this case. And other evidence now that's been received during the course of this trial where I believe we are using the accurate name.
Miss Ruby, I agree with you, Detective Carpenter, when he said, okay, let me finish. You lied about this and you lied about that. That was one of the funniest things until she stopped him. But you know what that did also? It showed that Darrell was getting to him. He was pushing his buttons. Blah. That is why, police and fire department people have one thing really in common, and that is we get so much a steady diet of the worst behavior from people that the fuse for us is like this long. The only reason why I could tolerate that behavior for even short periods of time is I knew I was pushing it off on the nurses. And I would walk into the hospital, and the bigger the smile on my face, the worse behavior they knew they were going to get from the patient. And there was just nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do. Ugh.
With that, I
don't agree to that, Your Honor, or consent to that.
Your lack of consent is noted. So before we go forward, I need to put a couple of things on the record. I know Mr. Brooks has filed some things, but before I get to that, as I told the parties on Monday, I had excused one of the jurors for a health reason, and it has come to my attention that I now have a second juror with the same health concern. Out of an abundance of...
Here's another way Darrell thinks he's going to go home because somebody got COVID, okay? Somebody got COVID. So let's just wrap this whole thing up. It's not safe to be here. There's no fear.
Caution, I'm going to bring the jurors out to question them about their, whether any of them have any concern about continuing to serve on this jury, given the health concern. I am referring to a COVID concern. I'm not going to ask any particular juror whether they've tested positive or not, or whether they've had an exposure. But I am going to ask them questions about their willingness to continue serving, whether it's interfering at all with their ability to pay attention. Out of an abundance of caution, we have brought in 2 air purifiers, although I am told that because of the new building and the HVAC that's in this building, and I received this from our facilities manager, the new HVAC system in the court's tower has a UV light system that disinfects the air at a higher air exchange rate than the purifiers, and that the system was specifically designed so that no special standalone systems are needed. But again, out of an abundance of caution, we've had 2 air purifiers put in this courtroom.
Okay, so COVID. Here's another medical question, medical-ish question. What do I think about COVID? What do I think about the way things were handled during COVID? I have to say, when they shut everything down, where I was working and what I was doing and the environment that I was in, it was a blessing to have it shut down for a short time. You drive down the street and people were in bed when they were supposed to be in bed. The shenanigans that go on a normal basis, the shootings, even during the day, and the stabbings and the fights and the homeless people and the population, and they're drinking and they're doing drugs and they're getting high and it's just, it's exhausting to go to work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and know you're going to be at work until 5 o'clock in the morning or later, and know that you're going to be up all night with toddler behavior all night long. Like, go to bed. Go to bed. So I must say, on a personal note, when that happened, it was refreshing to go to a night shift and have people in their homes because they were all scared. Now, how was it handled? The masks and the restrictions and the distancing, and quite frankly, science didn't really support the 6-foot distancing. It supported a 12-foot distancing in some studies. 12. So they politically settled on 6 because, at least you can hear each other when you're talking through a mask. I mean, that was their kind of like, let's take the science that's really we need to repeat a couple of times and, gum it up. So do I think any of these things worked? I don't know. Do I think that they should have used the tests that were available worldwide instead of making our own made in USA tests? I don't know. I mean, with something like this, with people getting sick and people really are dying. I mean, I had patients die. So, that it's important to think about certain things. But everything was just thrown at us. I had to wear masks all the time. I just did it because you want to know why I didn't care. I really didn't care. Now, I was exposed. I have an autoimmune problem, so immunity is an issue for me. So I was kind of afraid of catching it. And what would happen if I did, if I could fight it off properly because of, autoimmune usually means your immune system works higher, but I was on immunosuppressant therapy, so that makes things a little bit more gummy. So what we've got here is I would be exposed time after time after time, even not knowing I was being exposed. And patients I thought, could be COVID, but they have this other comorbidity. I'm going to take them in for this. And, they'll test them anyway. It doesn't really matter, what I bring them in for as long as they go in and get tested and get treated for whatever their, complaints are. And then I would find them intubated the next day in an ICU. And yes, they were telling me it was COVID positive and they needed to be tested. At first, they would test us anyway, blah, blah, blah. I never was tested positive. Even when I came up with symptoms, it was something else or the flu or something else. So as far as I know, I never got it, no matter how many times I was exposed to it. Interesting. Oh well. So here we've got somebody who has COVID. They are sitting next to each other. They're likely not wearing masks at this point in the whole pandemic. Some maybe, some maybe not. Darrell's wearing a mask because he's trying to hide his, trying to just wear his face diaper for all the poop that's coming out of his turd mouth. Somebody liked my turd monkey comment. I didn't even realize I said it. But, catching it if you're healthy, especially young kids, they weren't dying as much. So, go and isolate yourself. Don't spread it around any more than it has to be, and move on was the recommendation of most people. I mean, there were some treatments for people who needed them. There were some treatments if you wanted to be more comfortable, but certainly it was a virus. So moving on, and that's really all I know. I don't trust the tests.
I'm putting a third one in the jury room. We have also...
But here, Darrell just wants to go home. And he thinks
provided jurors, should they wish, with masks. We've increased the hand sanitizers and the disinfecting wipes. We've always had the hand sanitizers around.
That, I think, was the best thing. Wash your damn hands.
On the jury box at the moment. And they've been in the jury room. I'd also like to put on the record that I did advise the jurors on Monday that one of the jurors was not going to be with us any longer due to a health concern. I asked them at that point if anyone had any concern. I did indicate at that point it was a possible.
If you test positive for COVID, the people you've been around have already been exposed. They should go get themselves tested if they feel like that's a concern to them. But 5 or 6 days later, that's when they're going to know. But yeah, washing your hands, that was the best treatment. Wash your hands. Wash your hands, people.
Exposure. And they all indicated no, they didn't have any concerns. But again, out of an abundance of caution, I feel it's important to now question them while they're in the jury box to ensure that there aren't any issues related to that. So with that, I am going to instruct the jurors to be brought out for that purpose. And then they'll be excused after that so we can continue the discussion regarding that and then deal with, if need be, the other issues and filings that have been brought to my attention today.
Spinning it in his head.
Your Honor, will we be addressing subject matter jurisdiction?
No, not at this time.
Did he just...
Still has yet to be proved.
Oh my God, he did.
I don't know if the audio is on, but...
All rise for the jury.
Could you have a microphone available, please, if need be?
What a
They're
bum.
behind you. I don't know if you can see it.
Jurisdiction. Jurisdiction.
Wait, if you could bring me that.
Huh?
Michael, I'm going to hand you this. We're not going to take testimony from over kind of this preliminary. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I brought you out here. We are not taking testimony at the moment. I have made a record previously regarding COVID-related concerns with the jurors. I know you are all aware that one juror was excused due to a health concern. I also put on the record that on Monday when I advised the jurors of that, I asked you all if anyone had a concern regarding that, and that no one indicated they had a concern. I have been made aware of a second issue and potential exposure, and so I wanted to make a record in open court and to ask.
It was an exposure. If somebody tested positive and they've been in a jury room together, they've all been exposed. Okay. Now, It's kind of like people who test positive for TB and then I gotta go test it for. It's an exposure. People are people, and people have diseases. Okay, that's the truth, and we're around them.
Each
Except for
one of
recently.
you, if
We've all
any of
been-
you have any concerns about continuing your service in this case due to exposure to COVID. And so I'm just going to go through each one. Hopefully I can see all of your numbers from here. I'll just start from the back row and move from my left to right, front row, my left to right. And I also want to let you all know we have a very, very good HVAC system. I made a record of this while you were not here.
She is stating they had some pretty good, it's an airborne thing, so filters on their HVAC, a new system that is as upgraded as possible. They have air purifiers available. But like I said, washing hands, that's one of the most important things. I think that probably did it, even though it's airborne, it gets on your hands. You put your hands all over your face. Everybody does it.
But this is a new building. It has brand new technology.
Stuffy nose today.
I've been told that the HVAC system in the courts tower, and this was told to me by our facilities manager, has a UV light system that disinfects the air at a
That's good
higher
one, UV light.
air exchange rate than purifiers, but out of an abundance of caution, I've had 2 air purifiers also put in this courtroom, and I've had 1 put in the jury room. I believe you would be able to confirm for us as well that when you got into the jury room this morning, there were extra sanitation supplies along with masks. And so with that, I am just going to identify you by number. First of all, juror number 11. Do you have any concerns about continuing your service in this case, specifically related to COVID?
No concerns.
All right, thank you. Let me actually go back to, would the fact that you may have been exposed in any way interfere with your ability to pay attention and ultimately render a verdict in this case?
No.
All right, thank you. And then,
Reasonable.
let's see.
Reasonable.
I know our bar's really. Juror number 48, if you could also answer those 2 questions.
No concerns, both ways.
All right, thank you. And then juror number 46.
No concerns.
Thank you. Juror number 34.
Notable.
Thank you. Juror number 27.
No, also to vote.
Thank you. Juror number 30.
No concerns to both.
Thank you. Juror number 1.
No concerns to both.
Thank you. And then what's your number? 6. Juror number 6.
No concerns for both.
Thank you. And then juror number 14. I'll just start there.
No concerns to both.
Thank you. Juror number 10.
No concerns to both.
Thank you. Juror number 51.
No concerns to both.
Thank you. Juror number 45.
No concerns to both.
Thank you. Juror number 19.
No concerns to both.
Thank you. Juror number 41.
No concerns to vote.
Thank you. And juror number 3.
No concerns to vote.
All right, is there anything I haven't asked of the jurors or any other concerns related to that you would want to bring to my attention? If so, just raise your hand. There are no hands raised. I can also tell you from our initial days of COVID when we started up jury trials, we do have plexiglass panels that I could put in between anyone who would want one. Is there anyone here who would want that? If so, raise your hand. No hands are raised. That's really all I have. I don't know if there's anything either of the parties would want me to ask the jurors from the state on this topic. All right, Mr. Brooks?
No.
All right, thank you. I'm going to excuse the jurors then, and then when we're ready, we'll have you brought back out. And thank you so much.
He was really ready for somebody to say when they were concerned so he could go home. Ugh. Oh, yeah, this is dumbness right there. He thought C-19 was going to send him home. watching a little short video of like a 5 or 6 minute video. It was somebody who has been self-proclaimed narcissist, and said that when a narcissist changes a behavior, they feel like you should automatically forget everything they've done in the past. Well, I'm not going to kill anybody else now, so just forget it. Goblin. Spinning what he's going to try to do to make this bigger than it is.
Thank you. Be seated.
Judge, can we ask you a question?
Go ahead.
We counted 15 jurors in the courtroom.
I excused one.
You excused one earlier in the week too, though.
No. I'm only talking about the one. The other one I didn't excuse.
I see.
And,
Okay.
And
Oh, so he was
maybe I'll
just
make a record of
exposed,
that.
not
I
actually
did not
dead.
excuse given when that person reported their symptoms and where we're at today. So it would be,
So that person is here
yes,
and willing to
But
continue
exposed.
serving.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Also, exposed with no symptoms. I was exposed a billion times. Ugh.
And I will make a further record that none of the jurors are wearing masks.
Just FYI, one of the things I did do was, like, if I had a 4 or 5 day stretch at work and I was exposed several times, I would not have my family over. I would not go see my granddaughter. There were things I did to make sure that I wasn't showing any symptoms later, things like that. But I didn't, like,
I'm not going to
Test
mandate.
every
I
day.
believe it's a personal choice. And that would also be consistent with, I believe, our county policies as well. So, unless there are anything related to that, I have a couple of other issues I need to address this morning.
oh my God, here we go. Here we go. Buckle up.
Go ahead.
The person or the two people rather that are having the COVID concerns. I know you said you wasn't going to ask them had they test positive or the results of any testing. Do you know if there has been exposure on their end to COVID exactly, or is
No.
that just
They're
caution
reporting
thing.
something. It's reportable.
My understanding is that I've had 2 jurors test positive throughout the course of this week. And I'd make a further record that they're the only ones within 6 feet of each other, right? They, and perhaps our civilian bailiffs,
Look at his stupid face.
they've
Oh my
not
God.
been in, obviously, contact with anyone in the gallery.
Maybe
I
somebody's
don't know
positive?
if maybe Attorney Opper might be
Ignorant.
within 6 feet. I don't think so, but I haven't measured it. Obviously, you're not within 6 feet of any of them. But that's a good question to ask, and I'm glad you asked that. And I wanted to make a record of that as well.
Yeah, that would be my question to it. I guess in reference to me myself just having the same concern a few weeks ago. So that would be the reason why I would want to know exactly any details that could be provided.
None.
I'm providing all the details that I will. Again, for the record, you have not been exposed, from my opinion, because of the distance that you are.
I don't agree her opinion is worth anything. I don't even think my opinion really is worth anything. I've read a few things. I look back on it and have opinions about what we did and didn't do. The first thing they did was they gave us these big goggles and masks and the N95s. Okay, so they were uncomfortable. I couldn't see a damn thing. So if I had to do a delicate process or a procedure, or even something as simple as starting an IV, I couldn't see what I was doing at all, which lowered my chances of success, at least by 50%. I could do it by feel, but I certainly wasn't seeing anything. So my idea of was I exposed or was I not exposed, I don't know. I was exposed because I was around people with COVID. Okay. They were exposed because they were around people with COVID. But at this point in the process, things were choices, they were loosening
away from them and my understanding
recommendations.
based upon my review of county policy.
They drilled this 6-foot thing in.
I'm not saying me myself have
But
Understood.
exposed.
But everybody
Well, that's
is.
why I asked them though too, right? I wanted to make sure
I
they
want to be able to
had no
run 'em over
concerns,
with my
or if
mama's
they had
car.
a concern to see if I could accommodate it in any way. I'm satisfied that if they don't have a concern, that we can continue forward.
Thank you.
Have
Okay.
they ever, the entirety of the jury though, have they been exposed in any way?
Look at his fingernails.
I don't know the specifics because of the 6-foot rule, and no one has asked me to investigate that further.
Wouldn't it be smart though to see?
No.
Um,
No. It would not be smart to see. I want this picture too. It would not be smart to see, stupid, because no. And like I said, I even read 12 feet was the real foot thing. I mean, I think that everybody said a lot of things. They're going off of the county took the recommendations. They politicized it. Yes, they did. But they took the recommendations and they're trying to put forth recommendations that are livable. I get that.
I don't believe
get
that's
that.
necessary under the circumstances.
And the people
Well,
themselves
if
said they're
anything,
not.
just for
Shut up, Daryl.
future reference, like
So they should
what
test
if
everybody.
it plays a part later
Force
on?
them. They're not
I'll
in
certainly
jail,
take your
Daryl.
concerns under advisement, and if I believe any further questioning needs to be done, I'll do that. At this point, I don't believe it needs to be done, but I'll think about that and I'll take it under advisement, and if I change my mind, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because if anything, it probably would be smart for the long run to make sure no one else
Has it today?
compromised.
Has it today? That's
Let
all
me make
they
a
were
record
doing.
there. No one has indicated they are compromised. I don't think we can make assumptions about.
Okay, first of all, Daryl, they're not in jail. You are. Okay, so if the jail wants to mandate testing, the jail could probably mandate testing. But we cannot, and that might be an issue too. Somebody could complain about that. But you can't take somebody who hasn't done anything wrong and is just serving on a jury and mandate something. Unless there is a scientific thing of somebody, but you're still convincing it's still a choice. It is still a choice. Even in the fire department, we had choices. Okay. At one point, they were like the vaccine. Again, some people got it and some people didn't. The ones that didn't, you know what they implemented at the beginning of every single shift? These poor slobs who decided they were going to not get the vaccination because they just didn't want it, whatever. They tested them. They did the COVID test on every shift they worked. Ugh.
How anyone who's been exposed or tested is feeling. You can be asymptomatic and test
She's
positive.
right.
You can have mild symptoms.
At
I
that
trust
point
my
you could,
jurors
yes.
that they would report if they're not able to sit through the proceedings. And I will further.
And those asymptomatic people are going to be exposing others and not know it. And not even know it. You wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know to get tested. How would you even know it happened? Ugh.
Advise them through the bailiffs that they are to report if they ever get
infuriating
to a
to
point
me.
where they feel they're not able to sit through here, and if so that we're advised, and I can tell the parties.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, because it went from Monday, which at that time it wasn't known. Could have been flu, could have been just not feeling well, could have been anything, and then today is. Then you kind of worry about tomorrow, Friday, over the weekend.
Mr. Brooks,
But a test is only going to tell you if they're positive now, right now, and maybe symptomatic or not. But it's only going to tell you if the infection is active right now. Tomorrow they may catch it. Then the test today is meaningless. Are you going to make them test every day, Daryl? Are you going to make them test every day? Every day? Aren't you punishing them enough with the turds that are coming out of your mouth all the time, huh?
I share all of those concerns. But my other concern is that we are in the third week of trial.
Thank God.
And that we should keep going until the conclusion of this matter, understanding what has happened.
All right. I just wanted to put that on the record because
On the record.
that.
it seemed like the circumstances were different when it was me.
Yeah. Because you wanted to stop the trial and go home. You made them different. Oh my goodness. Darrell, you can twist reality right after reality happens. Like, it doesn't even have to fully be completed, and you can just change it in your head. He's not even a liar. He's not even a liar. He just alters his own reality. Reality is different. Reality's just different here in Darrell land, where the turd goblins run amok. Shut up. Just saying. I'm
Are you
right.
making any specific requests given this information?
Well, I believe that
Everybody, we should stop the
the
trial.
jury clearly all congregate together. I think
So?
it would be smart
Smart. SMRT.
to make sure everybody is tested.
Ugh.
I mean, that's it would be smart to do that.
Do that.
I'm not going to
In a
mandate
thug
testing for
way.
the jurors. That
Do
much
that.
I can tell
Oh,
you.
God.
So that request is denied.
And
Thank
the
you.
grounds for the denial.
It's because it's unreasonable.
I'm not going to mandate that the jurors be subjected to testing. They're the ones who indicated they are comfortable being here. They don't have concerns. And again, I would trust them to report to me if anything changes.
I would trust that too, but it still would refer back to Monday when the first knowledge of someone having an illness or a potential illness was those same questions that were asked today, asked Monday.
Excellent.
I did
I'm
not.
quite sure.
I certainly questioned them much more. It was a very brief. I put what I said to them on the record earlier. It was certainly not what we did here today, and the record reflects that.
Right. I'm quite sure though that all the jurors Monday said they didn't have any concerns as well.
He's weak.
And then now today, someone else, same thing
So?
being said. So
I understand what you're
if it
saying.
happens again, same thing being said.
But are you making any specific requests as it relates to this topic and this issue?
Well, you denied the request that
Any other requests?
I just feel like it's smart for them to be tested, so it doesn't come up again in the future, or potentially come up again in the future, because then we'll all be looking back and saying, well, we could have prevented something like this from happening if we had just nipped it in the bud from the get-go. It's just smart to, like you say, err on the side of caution.
He's gonna Barney Fife it in the
I
bud.
appreciate that. I'm going to continue. I understand what you're saying. But given the responses of the jurors today, I'm going to
Thank you
continue.
for your
I'm going to
opinion.
base
Now shut
this
up.
off of their desire to continue, at least what I would interpret as their desire to continue with their service on this case. All right, then I want to talk briefly about the jury view. I did provide the parties with a proposed instruction. Before I get to that, though, Mr. Brooks, I have been thinking about your request yesterday. And I know I indicated to you that I would require you to be there. I've rethought that. I've had the overnight to really think about it. And if that is your decision to not be present for that, what I would say is this. I want you to be advised that you have a right to be at that jury view. Did you hear me say that?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much told me yesterday about, everything that was going on. I didn't agree to or consent to it being, well, I was still confused about why did there even need to be a jury view. That was my whole thing. I didn't.
She's just not taking any kind of flack from it. First of all, thank you for your opinion, but just be quiet now on the COVID thing. And secondly, If you don't want to go to the jury view, fine, we're fine with this. Stay home because you're just a pain in the butt anyway. Well, I just don't know why there has to be one. Oh, why do you have to look at my mama's truck that I ran over all those people with? I don't understand. Ugh.
I don't see the relevancy of it, and I also didn't agree with or consent to having to be part of
it.
something that I don't see as relevant.
Then everybody should
I
just
appreciate you making a record of that, but did you hear what I said, that you have a right to be present for it? I've ruled that let me back up. There's been a request from the state to have the jury look at the vehicle that was recovered by the police and, of course, is alleged to be the vehicle that was driven through the parade. Did you hear me advise you of that?
Yes, I heard.
All right, so that motion was addressed previously, and I granted the request for that jury view. Did you hear me say that?
I'm informed.
All right, thank you. So with that, you have a right to be present at that jury view. Did you hear me say that?
I'm informed.
And I would like you to be there. I believe it is a piece of evidence. That's why I've drafted jury instruction 152 the way that I did. Did you hear me say that?
I'm informed.
So my question to you then this morning is, do you want to be present at the jury view of the vehicle?
I don't see the reason why I would need to be present.
Well, that's my question to you, though, is do you want to be present for it? You are the accused in this case. You're the person who the state has alleged committed these acts. The jury view will be to view a piece of evidence that frankly can't come into the courtroom due to its size, and the jury's going to be shown that. So do you want to be present at that?
For the record, I'm not a person. I'm a human being. And no, I do not consent to or agree to being present at a jury view.
All right, then I'm going to honor his request, but what I am going to do, though, is as part of that process in any event, because it's being done in a secure location, is I have ordered that I want to make a record of what's being done, and I want a visual record of what is being done. And so this jury view is going to take place in the Sally Port of the jail. And precautions are being taken so that the jurors do not know where it's at. It'll look like a garage, right? Anything that says jail within the Sally Port is being covered up. That will be verified before anyone is taken in there. They will be transported to there. I'm not sure if they'll walk or drive because it's very close. But then the sheriff's department, because as the court official, I'm in charge of keeping the record, not keeping the record, I'm in charge of making the record. It's the better way to say it. And I want to make sure that there's a record of what is done for this trial and certainly for any appellate purposes if need be. The sheriff's department, the sheriff's department is obviously charged with the security and safety of a courtroom, including the jurors. And so I have asked the sheriff's department to record. And so there is a camera that will be on a tripod that will record what's there before anyone gets there. I've instructed them to take that camera to walk around the vehicle and while it's recording, to put it back on the tripod. And before the jurors and the court are brought in, once we are brought in, it will also be recorded, and that contemporaneous recording, so that will be as we will walk around the vehicle one time. That will be recorded, and then both of those recordings are going to be made part of the record. Because the second recording is for the record and has the jurors, at this point I'm going to seal it so that at least until the conclusion of the case, given the order that I have regarding the what's referenced as an anonymous or numbered jury, so that will be sealed. but what will be released to the public or be made part of the public record, and so therefore any media request, would be that recording that just shows the vehicle without the jurors in it and without the court. So, and then I plan on also bringing that back to the courtroom while the sheriff's department's going to bring it back, and then we'll show it to you at that time.
I have a question though.
Go ahead.
If I have a right to be present, then I have a right to not be present. How can this take place if I don't agree or consent to being present? How can it even still take place without me?
It will take place, sir. I'm just going to honor your request not to be there.
I'm asking a question though. How can it take place without my consent or agreement?
If you don't, it's going to take place. That's how I'm going to answer that, sir. So you not going there is not going to prevent it from happening.
My law
But you can forfeit your right or to
I
be
didn't-
there
I
by your
didn't-
conduct. And by
I
your
didn't-
conduct, by not answering my question, by saying I don't want to be there and I don't consent to it, you will be forfeiting your right to be present and essentially waiving that.
Doesn't I have to sign something for it to be waived?
I don't think so in this case.
Well, yesterday you said something about
I know I said that, and I've
Yeah.
had some time to think about that further, and I don't believe I need to take a full waiver with you signing anything or even agreeing to the waiver.
so why did I have to do that for when my
I'm not going to answer those questions because that
Well,
would be for me to give you an explanation of the law.
no.
I'm
it
just
would
going to
be-
tell you that I'm not going to require a written waiver from you in order to honor your request to not be at the, or even if I phrase it, your lack of consent to the jury view.
And is that lawful law? Because
Sir, I'm not
The
going to
way-
go through all the law that applies to that.
The way
This is
I-
my ruling. If you disagree with it and ultimately there is a conviction, you can raise that on appeal. But
No,
your lack
Your
of
Honor.
consent is not going to stop the jury view. It's
It-
going to happen. It's a piece of evidence that I cannot physically fit in this courtroom. It's too big. There's no way to get it in.
okay, I'm informed of that, but at the same time, if I haven't signed any waiver, how could it be lawful? I haven't given consent or agreement to a jury view. I haven't waived any right. When the whole
So?
issue was brought up
The right does
on
not
the record
extend
yesterday,
to the car
my
you
first
use
thing that I
to
said
kill
was,
them.
I don't see the relevancy of why there should even be a jury view. And that was the whole issue. And yesterday I was told about I don't know how you say it, the colloquy or however you say it. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Colloquy.
I know
Which
what
was-
I said, and
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I had time to reflect. That was my initial reaction to your statement yesterday, but I've thought about it some more, and I'm changing my mind. I don't believe I need to take a full waiver with a colloquy with you and anything in writing. I'm advising you, you have the absolute right to be there. But I'm also advising you that if you choose not to be there, I will honor that request.
Happily.
And I'm not
Your
going
Honor,
to
the
force
way-
you. I'm not going to direct the sheriff's department to, use any type of force, if you will, or require you or get you there without your consent. You either cooperate with that process or you don't.
The way I interpret the law, though, Your Honor, which the law is designed to be interpreted by the people. The way I interpret that is I have the right or essentially to be there or not to be there, and it still has to be an agreement or consent. That's how I interpret the law.
My ruling on that, sir, is
Can you imagine the chaos if we let Dumb Darrell turn goblin and interpret the law for us? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. No. Please
I
Stop. Make it
disagree with
stop.
you. You do not need to provide consent for the jury view to happen. Your objection is noted for the record. I'll make a specific finding today that it is relevant to these proceedings, to this trial. There is an allegation that you drove through the WAUKESHA Christmas parade on November 21 of 2021, driving a red Ford Escape, killing 6 and injuring dozens more. The relevance is that there is, in addition to the charges, there's an enhancer that has been charged as it relates to the intentional homicide charges and the first degree recklessly endangering safety, that you committed those acts while using a dangerous weapon. I would direct your attention to the meaning of a dangerous weapon, that the legal definition that was provided to the jurors in the preliminary jury instructions, and that the jury view is related to the evidence that the state is presenting regarding the charges, and specifically the instrumentality that they allege is the dangerous weapon. So there's clear relevance of this vehicle and has evidentiary value. Again, your objection is noted for the record, but I will and am permitting the jury view of the vehicle. With that, I'm going to move on to the jury instruction.
I don't agree or consent to that, Your Honor.
I understand your objection is well noted for the record. I need to keep going though on the pattern and jury.
I'm informed that you need to keep going. I'm not trying to stop you from continuing to go. I'm merely stating for the record that there are things I do not understand how they're being permitted versus the Constitution. I mean, I'm sure you're aware under Article 6, Chapter 2 about the Supremacy Clause, that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So how can we disregard?
Mr. Brooks, I'm not disregarding the Constitution. Here's the thing. I've made my ruling, okay? Once I've made a ruling, I do expect that even if you disagree with it, you will not continue to argue it.
It's not
that
arguing.
We will continue on with the next topic.
I'm seeking to understand, Your Honor. It's not an argument.
Mr. Brooks, I'm not going to explain further other than what I have done, my ruling. My ruling stands. Now, I'm going to move on to the jury instruction. I gave the parties 2 documents.
May I respectfully reject that ruling and take exception to that ruling?
Gosh.
Your objection is noted. I'm
For the
moving
record,
on
may
to
I
jury.
request a legal and factual basis for your
Mr.
ruling,
Brooks,
Your
please
Honor?
don't interrupt me, okay? I give you an opportunity to raise your objections and to make your legal arguments,
raising
and then I make a
objection now.
ruling, and then you start in on something else. You need to give me your argument all at once. For you to interrupt me afterward is disruptive to me.
It's not
And
disruptive.
it's interrupting and it's disruptive.
It is definitely not
Well,
disruptive.
if that's my view of things, sir, and what I'm putting on the record is that it does disrupt what I'm doing and the flow of what I'm doing, and needing to move on, having to interrupt what I'm doing so that I can address that once again. Please, please. I know you may not always agree with my rulings, but I'd ask that you show the courtesy and decorum that is expected of everyone, and once I make a ruling, we're going to move on. You don't need to keep objecting because your objection's already been noted for the record. I'm going to continue. We're going to look at jury instruction 152.
Well,
I gave the parties 2 documents yesterday. One was the pattern instruction, which I've modified, and then one is the draft of, Mr. Brooks, please stop. You're continuing to talk over me.
Because
you're interrupting.
You said I have the right to object, and you didn't let me even get to the objection.
I did, sir.
No, you
Okay?
didn't. I was right
Your
in the middle of
objection
it.
comes before the ruling, not after. Once I make a ruling, we're moving on.
You made a ruling before we even finished the conversation, Your Honor.
It's not a
With all due
conversation.
respect,
Brooks,
before
please,
we
stop.
even finished,
That's not true. Okay?
you
It's
said
not
I'm going to
true.
make a ruling. As soon as you even started in about
Mr. Brooks, I'm not
having
going
the
to
time to
spend
think.
hours on end making a ruling about a jury view on something I've already decided. All right? So please, I'm asking you to stop. Stop
No,
interrupting me.
You can't,
And
you
please
can't
listen.
just disregard the United States Constitution, which has a
I
supremacy
absolutely am
clause.
not disregarding the
You are.
United States
You're
Constitution
not
or the
honoring your oath
Constitution of
office.
the state
Your
of
Honor,
Wisconsin.
are you not a public servant?
Okay, Mr. Brooks, you're starting to.
Okay, and this is where some of you are going to disagree with me. She is in public service. That does not make her a servant. Okay, now grammatically, maybe that's correct, but we in public service are not your direct servants. We are in service to the public all the time, and that means actually when we're on our own time. There were things that if they happened to me on my own time, I would have to report them to the fire department. I would have to report a ticket. I would have to report driving drunk. I would have to report if I got in trouble for making a scene someplace and getting a disorderly conduct or being drunk in public or any of those types of things that would be against a public interest or possibly behavior against public interest. I would have to report that at work, whether it happened at work or not. That is part of it. Public service means that our job is surrounding the public and making sure that they're not sick, dead, unsafe, needing of assistance. That is all part of it. But to demand that they do something because you're a servant to them is kind of creepy. It's kind of like creepy.
Cross the line. You've already crossed it, but I want to keep going. I
didn't
want you in
cross
this
any
courtroom.
line.
But if you keep interrupting me and putting you on notice that you run the risk of being forfeiting your right to be present in this courtroom and continuing in the next courtroom so that I can effectively and without interruption continue with the proceedings this morning.
So again, you're holding me in contempt.
All right. Jury instruction 152. Has the state had an opportunity to review it?
Is that a judicial determination that I'm being held in contempt?
And I agree generally with the court's proposed instruction. I did submit kind of a counter-proposed instruction following much of the language that you had in your version, Your Honor. I just think it's maybe better to refer to this area as a garage instead of a sally port. I don't know that anybody knows what a sally port is unless they work in this industry. And instead of referring it as being in the Waukesha County Jail, I just suggested a garage attached to the Waukesha County Courthouse. I think that is factually accurate and would dispel any concerns about anybody being in custody or reference to a jail setting. I did email my proposed instruction to your clerk and I e-filed it, but I admittedly just did that a few minutes ago. So that's why I emailed it to the clerk, because it's probably not in your queue yet.
All right, why don't we print that off so that Mr. Brooks can review that as well.
Seem to being called that name. What do I need to be reviewing?
The state has submitted an alternate proposal for instruction 152.
And that's referring to this quote unquote jury view.
Quote unquote.
Yes.
Quote unquote. Quote unquote.
Thank you.
For the record.
I accept for value in return for value this document.
This document.
Now, I'd like the record to reflect I still haven't received my original copies of my filings here this morning
Shut up.
with the timestamp.
That's what I'm doing too. I'm doing the same thing. Shaking my head.
Let me know when you've had an opportunity to review it if you so choose.
I just stated for the record I accept for value in return for value the document.
And then you sit there.
Do you have any position on the state's proposal?
I'm still trying to understand the whole process.
Mr. Brooks, my question to you is, do you have any position on the state's proposed jury instruction? Otherwise, I'm going to rule on their request.
you're going to rule on the request anyway. I got a lot of
Yes.
questions that don't get answered.
I have to rule on the request, sir. It's been a proposal filed with the court.
You haven't ruled on subject matter jurisdiction yet.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
No, you
In any
haven't.
event, do you have a position on the jury view, sir?
Yeah, what about subject matter jurisdiction?
One last time, Mr. Brooks, do you have a position on
Can
the
I
state's
go over the
proposed-
document, please?
Can
Can
I-
I do that, Your Honor?
Can I do
Respectfully,
that?
for the record, may I do that?
Man, do that. I'm a thug. You gotta be scared of me. I'm a thug. Man, do that.
You seem like the same thing that was there yesterday.
It's not. There are some changes.
Thug.
What changes?
What
Right.
changes?
It's the same. It's the same document.
With my long fingernails that I don't cut and my half a pen, I'm gonna thug talk. What an idiot.
That
Ugh.
was
Reference to
receptive for value,
the-
return for value
That I
yesterday. The
accept
same
for
document.
value and
It's
return
not the
for value.
same.
That's
The changes were
meaningless.
put on the record verbally by the state. It's taking out reference to Sallyport of the Waukesha County Jail, referring to it simply as a garage attached to the Waukesha County Courthouse. Those would be in the first two paragraphs. I believe the rest is the same.
So it was a couple words changed.
That's my understanding.
So it's the same document.
Let me know when you're finished reviewing it, and
I
I'll
don't
question.
have to review
I
the
don't
same
have to
document
review
that
the
was
same document.
reviewed yesterday. Accepted for value and return for value yesterday.
All right, then let me ask you this, sir. Do you have a position on the proposed instruction from the state?
It's essentially the same document. What was the significance of the change? What's the significance? Garage, Sallyport. What is the relevancy of what it's called?
State want to put on the record again the basis for the changes you made.
She just
Your Honor,
said it.
to my way of thinking, it is beneficial to the defendant. It removes any reference to Sallyport, which some may recognize as being part of the Waukesha County Jail. It removes reference to the jail itself. And then in the second sentence, the pattern instruction was worded, and the court followed it. You will be taken to the Sallyport in the custody of the jury bailiffs. I just thought it was better to change that. You will be taken to the garage by the jury bailiffs. Again, removing the use of the word custody is it's factually true, but it's really irrelevant. Just to be cautious, Your Honor.
Thank you. With that, sir, do you have any?
I don't
Position.
fundamentally understand that.
Fundamentally understand it.
I think everyone's well aware that I'm in custody. So how does the wording change what's already known? Everybody knows that I'm housed in the Waukesha County Jail. How does the wording change what's already known? It's reported on every single day,
In the news, yes,
as it has been since the beginning of trial and even before that.
Even
So I don't
before
think
that.
anyone's not privy to the knowledge
Privy.
of where I'm housed and that I'm in custody. How does changing the wording change what's already known?
Thank you. From my perspective, of course, when I drafted this yesterday, factually, what I put in there would be accurate because that's where the jury view is going to take place. I think changing the verbiage so that it says a garage attached to the Waukesha County Courthouse takes away any possibility that other law enforcement is condoning what is happening or somehow related to the case. It is true the location was selected due to your custodial status and being able to secure the area for the court, for you, for the jurors, etc. But it's also a controlled environment, I think, a good thing for purposes of the jury view. And so I am going to adopt the draft that was submitted by the state. It still is factually accurate. The whole And from my perspective, again, the importance of this instruction is to tell them what is and what is not evidence, and to instruct them and to not talk during this time. They can't discuss what they see during this time. This instruction will be read while we are still in the courtroom prior to the parties in the court going to the Sally Port for that viewing, and I've already discussed how it will be contemporaneously recorded so that it's part of the record as well.
So if I was there, where will I be at?
My understanding, if you choose to be there, is you will be escorted like you are in court here now. The bailiffs would be with you. You'd be in your suit.
No, where will I be at?
You would. I don't know exactly. That's up to the sheriff's department as to where all the parties are going to stand. Obviously, you would. We're not going to commingle you with the state or the state with jurors or you with the jurors or the court or anything like that. We're kind of. My understanding is we'll have sort of assigned places, and that it's only myself who will walk around. And I may not even do that. I have to think about that. But the jurors are the ones who are going to walk around the vehicle one time.
So I don't get to walk around the vehicle?
I can have you do that before the jurors come in. I certainly can have you do that if you would like. I can give the parties that opportunity.
And may I add something else, Your Honor? I agree with everything the court said. I also think Mr. Brooks should understand that it will be a fair process. He's not going to be led into the room in shackles in front of the jury. It's my understanding from Captain Dussault, the attorneys for the state, the prosecution team will be in the room. Mr. Brooks will be in the room. We will be in our assigned location. It will be fair. It will match. There will be basically no distinction between how Mr. Brooks appears to the jury versus how we appear to the jury. We will be in there first. If the court's willing to allow him to walk around the car one time to look at it, we have no objection to that. And then the jurors will come in. No one will speak. They will do one lap around the car. They will leave the room. And then the parties will leave the room. That's my understanding, Your Honor.
And I will add to that, because it's been a while since I had some preliminary discussions with the Sheriff's Department on this, that if however many bailiffs, sheriff's deputies are with you, I want the same number with the state, right? And that's what we mean by it will look no different. So each party will be accompanied.
That's the sad part, is they're trying to explain that this is going to be a fair process. This is going to, we're using wording to lessen the impact of your situation. We're going to call it something that is just a generic term. We are going to bring everybody in and everything will look equal and equitable. And he's all about the I'm not in control narcissistic thing. He's just, oh my gosh.
By deputies.
I have a question to that.
Okay.
How come none of that knowledge of how it would be conducted was discussed with me? I didn't know anything about how the bailiffs would actually do things, how certain things would go. This is my first time hearing this.
Well, we
so
have preliminary.
I don't understand it.
We have preliminary discussions at the time of the request back in August, when you still were represented by counsel, and then I had some additional preliminary discussions, if you will, internally with court staff, which included Captain Dussault and someone from the jail to talk about it and the logistics of it. And then, of course, we're having the discussion now, which is, again, why there's no jury here now. I wanted to wait until the appropriate time and then make a record of everything.
But don't you
At no time did I have conversations independently with the state. They had filed a letter at one point because they themselves had, again, my understanding, and Attorney Opera can correct me if I'm wrong, had some discussions to see if it was feasible. They had some discussions with Captain Dussault And Captain Dussault is with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department. Of course, the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department and the sheriff is statutorily responsible for the security of the campus, security of the courtroom.
It's exhausting.
And so that would be the proper person for any party to have discussions about a piece of evidence such as this. But I did not have any discussions with the state myself.
Harley's boyfriend's
That
outside.
only happened in the setting of a courtroom or when a letter was received and I reviewed it.
I haven't reviewed that letter or seen it. Don't you think that?
It was specifically addressed at the jury status hearing, at which time he was represented by Attorney Perry and Attorney Keys. It is on file, and
Which means it's in one of your boxes,
it was
Darrell.
addressed by this court. Many of these details, Your Honor.
All right.
Many
One
of
of
the
the
same
spots.
details that's being discussed right now at this moment.
All right, Mr. Brooks, do you have a request as it relates to any of that?
No. Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Well, yeah, I'm
Oh
still
my
trying to understand the whole how this is all working, and then it was a reference to how the shackles would look, or how being shackled or not being shackled. I'm guessing that I can't just walk around freely
They just
with bailiffs. I'm sure
explained
there'll
all
be
that.
some type of shackles.
I will tell them you are not to be shackled visibly for the jury to see.
And what do you mean by visibly,
And-
Your Honor?
So, obviously when you sit in court, you're shackled to a table. They can't see that. I'm not going to have you in belly chains or in leg shackles. You're just going to be escorted. And it will be up to them how they determine.
Well, he may be in leg shackles, Your Honor, if there's a table or some way that they can keep that out of the view of the jury. Just like he is in court. He's shackled in court. He has been for 3 weeks.
Actually, these are
The security
God,
has
here
to be
we
left
go.
to the discretion of the sheriff's department.
actually
Right,
these
that
are
we-
leg.
The shock things. Now he's gonna start really drilling in on that, and beating that horse. Gonna beat it till it's dust. Darrell, if you had shock things, any kind of shock thing on you, and I've seen this occur. I've seen videos with this. That one judge is banned from the courtroom forever and ever, had to retire because he did that to that man. If they didn't shock you, that person should be fired. Straight to jail for that person. Because you should have been shocked 100 times by now.
Leg shock
Like
devices, not shackles.
Shock devices. He says it
Sir,
again.
the security is
Look at his
up
face.
to the sheriff's department. I should be careful not to overstep my bounds on that. And, whatever is done, it should not be viewable or visible to the jury.
And why is that, Your Honor? I don't understand that part. Why is the jury not privileged to see
Privileged.
That is to your benefit.
shackles?
I'm not going to explain that any further.
I don't understand. I'm just seeking to understand. I don't know.
All right, I need to move on. So unless there's a specific request, other than a statement that
Yeah.
you're making about your lack of understanding, I need to move on with the other topics
There is
I
a
need
specific
to cover.
request. Why do I have to have ankle shocks on my ankles to appear at this jury view thing?
I guess I'm not aware of what you're talking about. So were you advised by the sheriff's department that that would be the case?
Well, the DA just said that I would have the ankle shocks on.
No, shackles, she said.
No, these are not shackles. They're a shock device.
Judge, I think perhaps we can move on. I think maybe because this is going to have to occur on a break, the bailiffs can take him down there if Captain Dussault is willing, show him what it's going to be like, show him how he's going to get there, and he can decide at that point if he wants to be there or not when the jury comes in the room. We're spending a lot of time talking about
On
security
something
and
that
things
is
that are
not
frankly
their
beyond
place.
your knowledge and my
Thank you.
knowledge.
I object to that. I'm simply trying to understand, why do I need ankle shocks.
I'm going to leave the security. I'm not going to make any specific orders. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I will leave the security of the jury view to the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department. That is their responsibility. And I trust that they will do what needs to be done to maintain the security, no different than what they do here.
in your lane.
And in their discretion will determine how best that takes place. And if I need to address anything after that or at that point in time, then it should be brought to my attention. But we are going to move on this morning.
So I should discuss that with the sheriff.
Yes. So I know, Mr. Brooks, you filed with the court 2 documents. I'm going to take them under advisement.
No, it's
I'm not
one
going
document.
to.
It's one. It was 2 papers, but it's one document.
Oh, all right. Thank you for that clarification. It's 1 filing, 2 papers, just front side, entitled Alleged Defendant Jurisdictional Challenge and Mandatory Judicial Notice by Affidavit. It references the case caption, the case number. I will simply take it under advisement, and I'll review it later. And if I believe it needs to further be addressed, I will do that. But it's my understanding, sir, that you are requesting the original back. Is that true?
Yes.
So normally, just so you know, when documents are filed with the court, we maintain the original until it's scanned in and it's audited, and then because it under the statute, once it's e-filed or into the electronic filing system and the electronic case, I believe we just destroy the documents at that point. So I don't have an issue giving you back the original, but it needs to run the normal course. My clerk needs to scan it in. I've advised you of this previously, but in the courtroom, we don't have the time stamp. We just have the date stamp. I will state for the record that you provided this. It was right away at the beginning of the morning, so at 8:30 a.m. is when it was filed with the court, so that will be on the record. And then at some point today, when we're on a break, my clerk can scan it in and then provide the original back to you, and then I'll have the electronic copy to review and address as I deem appropriate. Here you go, Madam Clerk.
I want to say to that, too, in reference to that, I actually said on record numerous times that I wanted the original copies of all my filings. I've actually said that 3 times on the record. This would be the 4th time. Every filing that
I'm going to give it back to you, sir, but I'm not required to by law.
Well, I'm just saying on record that I've asked for that numerous times.
Your statement's noted for the record. All right.
So would I be able to get all the original copies of all my filings?
No,
I'm
Darrell.
not going to address that any further, sir, because I am not the
stuff is
official
probably
keeper of the
destroyed
record.
by
As to
now.
what was filed
No.
this morning, as a courtesy, we will provide you back with the original once it's scanned and it's in my electronic file.
I was told that you make the decision if I can get the original copy.
And I just made a determination you could have the original back of this.
Can I have the originals for all my filings?
I'm not going to address that right now, sir. I don't have time, frankly, to look through everything that you filed to determine whether we've given you originals or not. In the future,
I have the copies. I don't have the originals.
So,
All right, I'm going to move on.
I have
sir.
them here.
This is taking up valuable time with the jury. We need to keep going.
Is that a judicial determination, Your Honor, that I can't get an answer to
I don't
something?
believe there's any other preliminary issues we need to address unless the parties have anything from the state.
Just very briefly, Your Honor, to advise the court, I have 4 witnesses here that I believe are very brief records custodian type witnesses on some video evidence. I'm hoping my direct should take 5 to 10 minutes for each of them. And then I have 2 police officers who will be testifying. There will be some physical evidence involved when those officers testify. And Detective Casey went to retrieve it, and he will bring it to the courtroom. When that moment comes, do you want me to have Detective Reglan take the exhibits to the witness stand, or what is the court's direction on that?
I would like you to provide it to the Sheriff's Department bailiff who's in the courtroom, my bailiff, who will then take it to the witness stand.
Okay, Deputy Bordeaux and... Yes, okay, I understand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the roadmap for today, if you will. Anything preliminary other than the filing, sir, and other than the topics we've discussed this morning?
Yeah, I'm still wondering when I will get the copies back for the ICFs that I filed.
I can't answer that. I don't have those, sir. You'll have to reach out to Clerk of Court Monica Paz.
Well, what happened to them?
I don't know. They're not part of the record. So you'll
They
have to
should
take
be.
that up with her by an inmate communication form and ask her for those. But I'm not going to address that any further on the record. All right, let's
should
bring the
be.
jury out.
It's kind of funny that they disappeared. No,
as
ICF
soon-
Oh
dis-
my goodness! About time for a break because they're going to bring the jury out. And we're going to see a witness. Let's see what we're going to see. Oh, look, he looks at the ceiling again. That's hilarious. Okay, so there's this guy. Okay, there's a couple of short ones coming up. Let's take a little break right here because that was exhausting. Okay, they covered 2 topics and we were over an hour. Oh, God. Like, subscribe, and comment. I will see you later. I'm going to do more today because I do work for the next 3 days starting on Monday. And is this Easter weekend? Happy Easter, everyone. That's what you celebrate, or Passover, that's what you celebrate, whatever you celebrate. See you later.